The cardiologist on the ninth floor of the prefectural hospital in Naha has been watching the same admissions board for 22 years. It is 4 a.m. in the morning. Cargo lights are still burning at the port. The cardiac ward is filling up before the city even wakes. He trained in Osaka and eventually came back to Okinawa for family, reviewing thousands of stroke intake files in the years since. Somewhere along the way, he started writing something down. It was not a medication failure. It was not a diet collapse. It was something smaller and harder to name. The patients arriving in the small hours with ischemic strokes were clustering. Not dramatically, not impossibly, but clustering. This was happening among people from the northern villages, among families who, in the last 2 or 3 decades, had quietly traded the bedding their grandparents kept for the bedding the mainland sells. The shikibutan on the tatami floor was abandoned for the raised western bed. The body curled on its left side was replaced by a body flat on its back, face toward the ceiling, with a pillow stacked thick beneath the neck. He was not the first to notice it. He was one of many watching the same board, coming to the same question by accident. Within the first 2 minutes of this video, the point should already be visible. There is a sleeping position associated with Okinawa's centenarian population. A cardiologist in Naha has spent 2 decades believing it matters, especially after 60. And the science that supports him was not published in a wellness book. It was published in the Journal of Neuroscience. The men and women in Ogimi village did not read it. They did not need to. If you are over 55 on a Western bed, sleeping on your back with 2 pillows under your head, there is something in front of you tonight that is worth a pen. Move north from Naha by 2 hours and the road narrows. Sugar cane is on the left, the sea is on the right. Ogimi sits at the edge of the Kunigami district. The population is just over 3,000, and it has held for decades the highest concentration of centenarians per capita of any documented community on Earth. The Okinawa Centenarian Study, begun by Bradley Wilcox, Craig Wilcox, and Makoto Suzuki in the 1970s, and running continuously since, has tracked 4 generations of residents here. Their blood, their meals, their walks, their sleep. What the study documented about Ogimi was not a diet exactly. It was a set of rhythms. Sleep was one of them. The elders of Ogimi sleep close to the floor. A shikibutan, a thin foldable mattress, is laid on the tatami. The position favored across a lifetime, observed in health habit questionnaires year after year, is lateral, side-lying. Most often, it is the left side down. Not universally and not by prescription, but consistently enough that the researchers flagged it as a behavioral signature of the long-lived cohort. Kame Ogata was 96 when her sleep habits were recorded. She had never owned a raised bed. She described sleeping curled on her left side as simply the way a body finds its rest. It was something she had done since she was a girl, something her mother had done, and something she had never thought to question. The researchers were the ones who found the question interesting. Kame did not. She was not unusual in Ogimi. She was representative. So here is the first habit. Sleep close to the ground on your side with the neck neutral. There are 3 sentences of mechanism because you deserve to know why before I tell you what to buy. The brain has a cleaning system. It runs at night. Brad Wilcox didn't discover it. Micah Nedergaard at the University of Rochester did in the early 2010s when her team imaged the brain in real time during sleep and saw something nobody had seen before. The cerebrospinal fluid that bathes the brain begins to circulate more actively when you fall asleep. It moves through channels that run alongside the blood vessels. It washes out the metabolic waste that accumulated during the day, including beta amyloid, the protein associated with Alzheimer's plaques, and tau. The brain washes itself while you sleep. It does this every night, or it tries to. Jonathan Eliff, working with Nedergaard, named it the glymphatic system in 2012. Glia, the support cells of the brain, plus lymphatic, a nighttime drainage built directly into the architecture of the skull. The system depends on sleep depth. Light sleep produces some clearance. Deep sleep produces substantially more. Beta amyloid accumulates in brains that do not reach the deep stages reliably. That part has been settled science for over a decade. The part that is newer, and the part the cardiologist in Naha keeps coming back to, is position. In 2015, a team at Stony Brook University, led by Hee-Duk Lee, published a study in the Journal of Neuroscience. They use dynamic contrast MRI to track glymphatic transport across 3 sleep positions: lateral, prone, and supine. The lateral position produced the most efficient clearance. The supine position, flat on the back, the one most Western mattresses are built around, produced the least. The numbers were not marginal. Lateral clearance was measurably superior across multiple markers. Now, what does any of this have to do with the cardiologist's admissions board? This is the detail that took him 22 years to articulate. The glymphatic system does not operate in isolation from the cardiovascular system. Jugular venous return, the drainage of blood from the brain back to the heart, is affected by head position and by neck angle. When you sleep flat on your back with a thick pillow lifting the head, the neck bends slightly forward. The venous outflow narrows. Intracranial pressure rises a small amount. Cerebral autoregulation becomes less responsive, and the conditions that predispose certain people to ischemic events, small clots, brief arterial narrowings, the pressure spikes that arrive in the hours before dawn when cortisol begins to rise, become marginally but measurably worse. It is not catastrophic and not guaranteed. It is marginal. But at the margins is where the difference between a 97-year-old in Ogimi and a 68-year-old in Naha tends to live. Here's what you can do tonight. 2 things, both free. First, take the top pillow off the stack. If you sleep on 2 pillows, take one away. If you sleep on one thick one, fold a thin towel under it and remove the pillow itself. The neck should be in roughly the same line as the spine, not lifted and not dropped. Second, roll onto your side before you fall asleep. Left or right does not matter. The Lee 2015 data did not strongly prefer one over the other. Both outperformed supine. What matters is not facing the ceiling. Bring your knees up slightly. Tuck your top arm forward, not under your head. Your spine settles. The position holds itself. The body, given the chance, finds it. That is the entire intervention for habit 1. Take a moment. How do you actually sleep tonight? Not how you fall asleep, but how you wake up. On your back with the alarm pulling you out of the position you drifted into hours ago? On your side, against a partner, or against a wall? Tonight, notice it. That is the variable. Beyond the position itself, the cardiologist in Naha has noticed something else in the cluster: the room and the infrastructure of the sleeping space. This is a second habit, quieter than the first. The houses in Ogimi are built low. They have sliding paper screens, shoji, instead of opaque doors. There are tatami mats on the floor. Ceilings are closer to the head than the suburban houses in Naha or the apartment blocks in Tokyo. The shiki-buten folds away in the morning, and the room becomes a living space. There is no permanent piece of furniture announcing where the body goes at night. This sounds aesthetic, but it is functional. A heavy mattress on a raised frame holds heat. A thin shikabutan on a tatami floor breathes. The wood and woven straw beneath you regulate humidity in a way memory foam does not. Body temperature drops more cleanly through the night. And core body temperature drop is one of the most reliable predictors of how much deep sleep you will get. The Stanford Sleep Lab demonstrated this in repeated controlled studies. Cooler sleeping environments produce deeper sleep. Deeper sleep produces more glymphatic clearance. Each variable feeds the next. So here's the second thing you can do this week without buying a new mattress and without sleeping on the floor. Lower the temperature in your bedroom to between 60 and 67 MF overnight, which is 16 to 19 degrees C. Strip the heavy comforter back to a sheet and a lighter blanket. If you live somewhere humid, run a fan. The Okinawan house does this for free every night because of how it was built. Yours can do it with a thermostat and one less blanket. It is a small adjustment. Stacked across the same decades, the cardiologist has been watching the cluster grow. There is a third habit, and this one is not exactly about sleep. It is about what happens before sleep in the houses where the long-lived people of Ogimi live. The light. The shoji screens face east in most of these houses. The morning light arrives at floor level first. The grandmother on the floor mat wakes with the actual sun, not with an alarm, not with a phone, and not with the bright bedroom ceiling fixture. Her cortisol rises in step with the natural light through the paper screens. And here is the part that matters for what comes 12 hours later. The strength of her circadian signal in the morning predicts the depth of her sleep that night. Sachin Panda at the Salk Institute has spent 2 decades on this. Bright morning light, ideally outdoor light within the first hour of waking, locks the circadian rhythm in place. Without it, melatonin production at night is delayed. Sleep onset is delayed. Deep sleep is shortened. The glymphatic clearance window shrinks. The fisherman from the coastal village at the edge of Ogimi is 88. He wakes at 5:30. He drinks warm water before anything else. And he spends the first hour of his day in the garden behind the house. Bitter melon, purple sweet potato. The work is not strenuous. It is the same 40 minutes of weeding he has done for 40 years, but he is outside in the natural light during the most circadian, active hour of the day, every day, without thinking about it. His son, who studied engineering in Tokyo and returned to Okinawa at 55 with a Western-style bed frame from a furniture chain in Naha, asked his father once why he still slept on the floor. The old fisherman thought about it for a moment and said, "A floor does not break. A floor does not need replacing." That was the answer. It was economic and practical, having nothing to do with cardiovascular physiology. And yet the cardiovascular physiology followed from it all the same. For you, the third habit, walk outside within the first 60 minutes of waking. Do it for 10 minutes, coffee in hand if you need it. No screen for that 10 minutes. Even on a cloudy morning, outdoor light is 10 times brighter than the brightest indoor lighting. Your eyes do not lie about the difference, and your circadian system does not either. Do it for 2 weeks. Track when you fall asleep that night. The data is unmistakable. Now, the fourth habit, this is the one I almost left out because it sounds like a generic wellness recommendation, and I wanted to be careful with what I gave you. But it kept appearing in the centenarian study questionnaires. So the last meal, Kami Ogata, the woman on the left side of the floor mat at 96, finished eating before sundown. She did not call it intermittent fasting. She did not have a name for it. The evening meal was a small bowl of miso soup, some pickled vegetables, and sometimes a piece of fish. It was 6 in the evening at the latest. Then nothing. Tea maybe, or water, but no food. The fisherman ate the same way. The widow at the kitchen window on the Fukuji hillside does the same. The mainland Japanese pattern by the 80s and 90s had drifted toward later, larger evening meals. The Okinawan pattern in the long-lived villages did not. And here is what that does to the system you have just spent a video learning about. Eating late raises core body temperature during the digestive window. It delays the natural temperature drop that triggers deep sleep. It pushes melatonin onset back. It compresses the deep sleep portion of the night where glymphatic clearance does most of its work. None of this is speculation. The chronobiology data is consistent across multiple labs. Late eating reduces deep sleep. Reduced deep sleep reduces brain clearance. So the simplest possible adjustment on a regular Tuesday in a regular American kitchen? Move dinner 30 minutes earlier, then another 30 minutes the week after. Aim for at least 3 hours between your last bite and lights out. You do not need a fasting protocol or an app. You need to finish dinner before the second hour of evening television. 4 habits: the position, the room, the morning light, the last meal. None of them were invented by Ogimi. All of them were practiced in Ogimi without a label. All of them are validated by the same physiology, the brain cleaning itself in a body whose circulatory system is not fighting against the pillow under its neck. The science behind this is not new in any honest sense. The Ilif and Nedergaard papers from 2012 and 2013 are foundational. The Lee study from 2015 added the position variable. What has been slower to arrive, and the reason this video exists at all, is the connection back to cardiovascular outcomes. To the small-hour stroke admissions on the 9th floor of the hospital in Naha. The cardiologist there has not published, and he is precise about why. A clinical pattern observed in a single hospital across 22 years is a hypothesis, not a study. The controlled trial that would isolate sleep position as a single variable across thousands of post-60 patients does not exist. He knows that and says it openly when asked. What does exist is the convergence. The mechanism is established. The position effect on glymphatic clearance is measured. The cardiovascular implications of jugular venous obstruction are documented in unrelated literatures. And the centenarian cohort, whose habits accidentally satisfy all of these conditions, sits 2 hours up the road, still folding their shikibatan in the morning. Here is the mistake most people make when they hear about Okinawan sleep habits. They buy the floor mat, but they keep the thick pillow. They fall asleep on their back. They wake up in 3 weeks with stiffness in their lower back, blame the practice, and go back to the raised mattress. They miss the variable that mattered. The mat is incidental. The position is the thing. The neck angle is the thing. The temperature is the thing. The light is the thing. You can do every one of these on the bed you already own. What actually mattered in the centenarians the study followed was not the floor itself. It was that the floor-level sleeping arrangement made the lateral position natural and the supine position uncomfortable. The body settled into the right configuration on its own. That is the lesson worth carrying. Not the equipment, but the configuration. There is a moment in the Okinawa centenarian study records that has stayed with me longer than any of the data tables. The researchers asked Kame Ogata, in her 9th decade, whether she thought of herself as old. She said no. She said that old was what her grandfather had been when he stopped going to the seawall in the morning. That had not happened to her yet. The seawall, in her case, was the path down to the village center, where she still walked twice a week to play Hanafuda, a card game, with 3 other women of her generation, one of whom had recently turned 100 and was, in Kame's words, exactly the same person she had been at 70. The community in Ogimi has a name for this: Moai, a small group of friends who commit to support each other for life, financially, emotionally, practically. Kame's Moai had been together since they were 15. That is 65 plus years of the same 4 women showing up for each other. Card games on Tuesdays, funerals when someone's husband died, vegetables shared out of the gardens. This is the part the sleep studies do not measure. The cardiologist in Naha is honest about this too. The cluster he watches on the admissions board is not a single variable problem. The Okinawans who stayed in Okinawa kept everything: the sleep, the diet, the moai, the morning gardens, the floor-level houses, the easy walks to the community center. The ones who moved to the mainland lost most of it. The cardiovascular gap that opened in the next generation followed all of those losses, not just one. He does not believe sleeping position alone explains why his admissions board looks the way it does. He believes it is one of many threads. But it is a thread that almost nobody in the cardiology literature has talked about, and a thread that has the unusual property of being free, modifiable, and replicable in any house, anywhere in the world. The diet takes effort. The community takes years. The sleep position takes one night. That is the case for starting there. If you have been watching this for 19 minutes and the protocol resonates, the position, the room, the morning light, the last meal, you are not alone. The same 4 habits drawn from the same Okinawa centenarian study records and the same supporting literature on glymphatic clearance, circadian rhythm, and chronobiology sit at the foundation of the 90-day body reset system. It is a printable protocol, a document. The full system is drawn from all 5 blue zones: Okinawa, Sardinia, Icaria, Nicoya, Loma Linda, translated into one walkable plan with shopping lists, weekly trackers, and a meal structure that fits a normal week. No gym, no calorie counting, no expensive supplements. You can find the full protocol through the link in the description below the video. Read it tonight, start tomorrow, and adjust by week 3. Now back to the cardiologist in Naha and what he sees on the board at 4 in the morning. The 4 habits drawn out of the Okinawan elders' lives form a system, not a list. It is a system because each of them feeds the next. The cool room produces deeper sleep. The deeper sleep produces more brain clearance. The lateral position increases the efficiency of that clearance. The morning light strengthens the next night's depth. The early dinner stops the digestive heat from interrupting the cycle. None of them work as well in isolation as they do together. If you only take one of them, take the position, the lateral side sleeping, and the neutral neck. That is the keystone. Everything else amplifies it. If you take 2, add the morning walk in natural light. If you take 3, add the early dinner. The 4th, the cool room, is the one most American houses already partially do. You only need to nudge it. Stand up right now. Walk to your bedroom. Look at the bed. Are the pillows stacked? Take one off. Is the comforter heavy? Pull a thinner blanket out of the closet for tonight. Is the room facing east? Open the curtains the smallest amount so the morning light arrives at the level of the bed at sunrise. That is the whole physical setup. 3 minutes of work. It is the system the centenarians in Ogimi did not have to set up because their houses came pre-configured. A last image, because the cardiologist in Naha did not show me a chart. He showed me a photograph of his grandmother taken in 1978 in a village 2 hours north of the hospital. She is sitting on the edge of a folded shikabuten in a room with shoji screens, letting the morning light in at floor level. She is 83 in the photograph. She lived to 97. She slept on her left side every night of her life. The cardiologist did not know any of the science he now knows when he was a boy in that house. He knew that his grandmother went to bed at 9 and woke at 5:30 and walked to the seawall every morning in the light. He knew that his grandfather had done the same and had also reached his 90s. He learned the science later as a clinician on the 9th floor of a building, 12 stories above the port. What he saw on the admissions board over 22 years did not contradict the photograph. It explained it. In 72 hours, if you have been side sleeping with one pillow and the room cooler than usual, you will notice you are slightly less groggy on waking. By the third Saturday morning after you started, your last meal will have settled naturally into the earlier slot without forcing it. By the day you forget to think about any of this, the day the position is just the position and the morning walk is just what you do, that is the day the system is yours. That is the day the 4 habits stop being 4 things you are doing and start being 1 thing your body does. The grandmother in Ogimi never thought about any of this. She did not have a protocol. She had a life lived in a particular configuration, in a particular kind of room, on a particular surface, at a particular angle to the rising sun, and the configuration is the protocol. You can have it tonight. In the comments, tell me which side you usually wake up on. Most people have never thought about it as a health variable. After watching this, does it look the same to you? The mat is on the floor. The position is on the left side. The brain is cleaning itself. If this exploration of Okinawan wisdom has changed the way you look at your own nightly rest, please subscribe and like this video. We are uncovering the hidden rhythms of health and history that have been overlooked for too long. Join us as we cultivate a better future by learning from the past. Our next deep dive into the secrets of longevity will be opening soon. Stay tuned.